Welcome to the Thrive podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church.
How does your faith kind of play into it, or does it play into it?
What can be done about it? When I say the church, I'm talking about evangelical white Christians and the black folk who attend their churches.
Hello, welcome to the Thrive podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm Fred Jeff Smith, pastor of Shiloh, and I'm very happy that you chose to either view us on Facebook or YouTube or listen to us on iTunes, Amazon Prime, or Spotify. As always, we invite your input and your comments with regard to the Thrive podcast. You can reach out to me at fredjeffsmith@gmail.com. fredjeffsmith@gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. I'm very honored today to have the now leading candidate for Mayor-President of East Baton Rouge Parish, Coach Sid Edwards. Coach Edwards, thank you for taking the time to come and share with us today.
Much an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Before we talk politics, let's talk football. Your Struma football team is 7-3 and heading into the playoffs. How do you feel about that?
We're excited. I feel good about it. We're just about 3 yards away from being a 9-1 football team, but it's all good. You know, I like our draw. We're playing a good Booker T. Washington team out of Shreveport at the reservation at home Friday, and the school and the kids are all excited. Good.
Well, I wish you all every success in your football endeavors.
Thank you.
Let's talk about politics a little bit. You made the decision earlier this year to throw your hat in the ring to become Mayor-President of East Baton Rouge Parish. And lo and behold, when the vote was taken on November 5th, you finished first. Was that an expectation of yours?
It was not. When I first got in it, there were eight candidates, and of course, when I qualified on the last day of qualification, I didn't make up my mind till the night before.
Yes, sir.
That am I going to do this? And at that point, I wanted my voice heard, and I wanted to get in it and try to make a difference. And all of a sudden, I think quickly I was in the top three, and then really running third on all the polls throughout the entire primary campaign. So when the night came, my goal was I really would like to get in this runoff, but all the polls were saying that wasn't going to happen. But as the night went on, and here again, being a novice, on an election night watch party, and ended up with the most votes in this part. So yes, I wouldn't say it was an expectation. It was a hope that I could get into the runoff.
What do you think made the difference for your rise, your ascendancy to first place as quickly as you did? Particularly given the fact that you, as you say, you're a political novice.
Well, I have some name recognition, but it's really in the athletic community, which is just a fraction of our entire parish. But we ran a grassroots campaign. The emphasis was put on my signage. I have signs everywhere. I think I led the pack in signs. And then I had the opportunity to do forums and debates and get in front of people like we did here at Shiloh.
Yes, sir.
And I think once the first poll came out, and I won't say the first, but a poll came out that had Mayor Broome in the lead with Mr. James and I tied at a percentage. At some point, that poll hit. And I think that's when it kind of grew legs, which helped me with a little fundraising. Like, hey, maybe this guy is real, and maybe this old coach has a shot. But I think just hard work, hard grassroots work, and getting the word out. But I must say, here again, as far as getting the most votes in that deal, I was a little surprised.
Well, you mentioned signage. I noticed your signs going up throughout the parish as I drove around. And then I noticed that there was a shift in the signs.
Right.
There was your name and your picture, and then people were coming back, and there was an intention to put the word integrity
right
on top of the sign.
Right.
Tell me what thought process went into that.
Well, my little team, I have a sign committee, and they call them sign toppers. And they said, look, we want to put something catchy up there and, something that describes you. And they came up with all kind of, different ideas. And I'm a humble man, and they thought integrity, at least how that group viewed me, their view of me, they thought was a description that was fitting. And, I kind of, there was hope, there was change, a lot of the political different slogans. But that's what they came up with. And that was their view of how they felt people viewed me.
So it was more about you than about your opponents.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, more about me for sure.
Okay. Let's talk about some things having to do with East Baton Rouge Parish.
Right.
And give us a sense of your thoughts about certain things. I recall from your time here when we had the debate that crime led the issues for you with regard to why you decided to run. You told a story about a former player of yours who was murdered tragically. So could you help me understand what your plan is to curb crime should you become mayor-president? What is it that you think needs to take place to curb crime in East Baton Rouge Parish?
It has so many tentacles, so many layers. First and foremost, where I'm working now and where I'm ministering and mentoring now, these young men, and I teach, I fool with the young ladies as well. They're part of the fabric over there for sure. But these young men, they're victims of trauma, a lot of them, a lot of fractured family. It's all over the parish, but in North Baton Rouge in particular. And there's some hopelessness, certain despair. And I think to me it starts when they're young, mid-elementary school, middle school for sure. And it's getting with these young people and getting with their families and coming up with thoughts and ideas and programs to help them. A lot of our young men, they believe that in order to get out of situations they're in or to make a better life, many of them really believe it's got to go the route of a professional athlete. And the truth is that takes a lot of talent and some luck. 2, rapper. Every one of my football teams think they can rap, and the truth is none of them can. I've listened to them, right? But they think they can. And to become that takes a lot of talent and a little luck. And it's appeared to me that for many of them, the third option is the street. And to me, the education piece, the helping family piece, the education piece, where we're getting in there and showing these young people that there are other options. Now, for many of them that have both parents at home or a one parent that's strong and they have a plan and they got it together, they'll be all right, But that's not the norm, especially a two-parent family. And so for these young people, it's telling them there is a such thing as a pastor or a mailman or a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, a veterinarian, a business owner. But I think a lot of these kids don't feel that that's viable, that that's for them. I sometimes accuse some of my kids out of Struma of being scared to be great. There's, look, you can be great, challenge them, whether it's an English exam or on the football field. So I'm saying that all to say it starts with the young people and having more hope, jobs, opportunities for them. Another layer of it is what we tolerate, okay? we have a homeless situation in town, and I'm very sensitive to that, and in helping those folks as well. A lot of those people don't want to be homeless. They're not choosing that. Things just happen. But there are some that can get out of it, and they're petty criminals running around Baton Rouge causing issues and causing problems. So what happens with them, what I'm looking at is the habitual offender, the one who is consistently causing grief in our parish or whatever. So therefore, it comes now back down into not tolerating it, and law enforcement. Our police, they're overworked, underpaid. We're 100 or so officers short of having a full staff. And we talk about community policing. I know it's been in our local government and nationally as well. We don't community police. And what our officers are doing now is they're just responding. They're reacting to something. Hey, there's a shooting on North 14th Street. Boom, they react. Or there's a burglary. They're reacting. So there's not enough of them to community police. And I think that's so important. That take my kids where I'm at, Winburn, Oswego, Evangeline Street area, that if there is an officer, we have enough, or more than one, that's stationed in that area, and they know his name. We already know that the view of the police, you could be the perfect person in the world, and there's not a great view of them, right now. Almost made out to be that the enemy at times. And there's been some things, certainly, that has happened. Okay, Brave Cave, not to mention one, that erodes that trust. So it's the building of a better police force with numbers that are community policing and are a part of the fabric of the city. And then there's also the piece of tough on crime. I mean, our DA is overwhelmed, underfunded as well. So when some of these perpetrators are sent, they're booked or they're arrested or whatever, they're often out the next day. Now, quite honestly, in my view, if we pick someone up and they had a dime bag and smoking a blunt, Coach Sid that's not keeping me awake at night. But if someone beat their wife or abused a child or stabbed somebody, they don't need to be at the Circle K buying their Powerade 48 hours later. So I know I've just kind of let a lot of stuff out because it's so multi-layered.
Well, I wanted you to have the opportunity to ruminate and expand on your answer. Can I question you about a couple of things? My real appreciation for the problems of law enforcement in Baton Rouge, most recent appreciation of problems in law enforcement came in 2016 with the with the Alton Sterling shooting, what I call murder. And you talk about mistrust of police. I think a lot of that goes back before the Brave Cave and goes to the Sterling incident. And one of the things that I tried to do was educate myself with regard to the Baton Rouge Police Department. And I have ministerial colleagues who are former police, and I went to them and I asked them about certain issues that existed within the Baton Rouge Police Department. And this was before Murphy Paul, who I think was an excellent chief of police. But part of the problem that they pointed out to me was with regard to the same thing you were talking about, community policing, that there were not enough police officers who actually made their residence in Baton Rouge. We have Baton Rouge police officers who live outside of the parish of Baton Rouge, and they live in Livingston, they live in Ascension. Some live as far away as St. Helena Parish, bordering on the Mississippi state line. And for me, it's difficult to understand how you can feel a connection to a community that you are policing if you don't have an investment in the community. And that's my long way of getting around to this question. Do you support an idea of a residency requirement for Baton Rouge police officers?
I do. I think some stuff you would have to grandfather in. Take the officer who lives in Addis, and their children are going to school. I mean, established. But I think that's an important piece. I'm with you. Just the fact that even to the point, if they could live not only in the parish, but near and in the area
Yes.
that they work.
Yes.
You know, hey, that's Officer, Spelling's house over there, on Beach Street. So, yes, that would be something I certainly would be in favor of and look at. Here again, being sensitive to the current force that has a residence already. But to me, the rebuilding of the force, I think that could be a big part of it.
Couple of other questions. SAFE-BR recently published a report suggesting that there be a merger between the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office and the Baton Rouge Police Department. This suggestion, first of all, it's not the first time that this has come up, but neither Sheriff Gautreaux nor Police Chief Morse seem to be in favor of such an idea of a merger. Should you be Mayor-President, what would be your position with regard to this SAFE-BR recommendation?
Right off the bat, I'm not for it. I think more emphasis should be put on helping both of those organizations, both of those units. I feel we're falling short in some training. We're falling short in some equipment, vehicles, as well as the number of officers. And I think one of the things, talking to some of the Baton Rouge police officers, some of their benefits and retirement and all that, and I don't know that deep into it, but I think that could be affected. I'm not going to say that is not nothing that I will not dig into and speak to the leaders of those organizations, as well as the people, Safe Baton Rouge, who put this together. That's how a parish gets better, when people think and sit around a table. So if you ask me right now, okay, Coach, are you yes or no? The answer would be no.
Okay.
But with an open mind to sit and listen to what they have to say.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to talk to either Chief Gautreaux or Police Chief Morse, I should say Sheriff Gautreaux or Police Chief Morse, with regard to the problems that exist with Parish Prison, which is under the auspices of the Sheriff's Department, or the City Jail? There seems to be a problem with space and quality of the conditions that exist within those. I know that in the past, Sheriff Gautreaux has talked about the idea of building a new parish prison. The name itself is troubling to me, because it's not a prison, it's a jail. Prison is for those who have been convicted, and this is a holding place for people waiting for proper adjudication. But what's your attitude about putting forth a thrust to improve the conditions in our detention centers?
I have indeed talked to Sheriff Gautreaux about it. I picked his brain a little bit on it. I even asked, we haven't gotten to it, I wanted to go in. It's been a long time since I've been, over there. And although I've spoken to Chief Morse, we haven't discussed that subject. So my deal is, I think the need for a new facility is very, very high. And the facility I see, and I agree with you, they're calling it the parish prison. My whole deal with it, it's not good for Baton Rouge, and it's not good for those that are incarcerated to be in those conditions. And I think we're weak on helping those inmates, helping those incarcerated, physically, mental health, spiritually. I just think there needs to be components. So we can build a mortar building, brick and mortar building, but it's also what is going on inside those walls that are so important. So here again, a holistic approach to a new jail a new parish prison, but I think it's absolutely needed. And here again, sometimes people get a little nervy, like I've brought this up, about, hey, we're going to build a bigger jail. Well, when some of our citizens, when they hear bigger jail, they can lock us up. I go back to something I said earlier. It's one for us not to have to pay other jurisdictions to hold the people, but it's there. It serves several purposes. One, I mean, it's a jail, but two, there's got to be. I see a jail, or for that facility, being such an educational piece. Is there such a thing in our world to go to jail and come out better? And that can happen. I don't know that that's happening now, but you got to provide those people that opportunity.
With regard to your victory on Tuesday night, you came in first. I'll be honest with you. I was a little bit concerned with how the election turned out. I'm not a candidate, so I can say how I feel. Yeah. I wasn't happy with the way the presidential election turned out. And this is the way that I want to frame my question. The state of Louisiana, it was a foregone conclusion that the state of Louisiana was going to vote in favor of Mr. Trump, and did so by a 60% margin. 60% voted for President-elect Trump. Right. But in East Baton Rouge Parish, Vice President Harris won the vote by 54%. Now, taking that into consideration, in that you're running for East Baton Rouge Parish Mayor-President, what does that say to you? That 60% of the state voted one way, but 54% of the parish voted another.
And in what terms? Like what?
Where do you think that places you as the conservative Republican candidate running in a parish that voted 54% for Vice President Harris?
It's one of the things I've been trying very hard to resolve in my mind in these politics. You see, where I'm from and what I do, there are no R's and D's. There's no black and white. I can remember coaching football at Redemptorist High School, and we had a very good team. We won the state championship that year. And I had an old pastor, Father Joe Steffes. He was 93 years old. And I can remember I had two quarterbacks, okay? One of them was a young man, a senior, okay, young white kid. Then I had a sophomore, young black kid. And they were both very good, different, but very, very good. And I never believed in the two quarterback system. I never did. So what I did from game one till the state championship game, I rotated them every series because they both brought something to the table. But during that time, there were some people, there was actually some racial stuff about Sid is only playing the white kid because of who his daddy is, or Sid prefers black quarterback. I was getting that for the first time in my career, and it was uncomfortable. And I'll never forget, Father Joe was there, and he was talking to a kid, and I think Father Joe put it in the kid's ear, and it was one of the players, and he said, "You know what, Coach, here's the deal. There's no black and there's no white. We're green." That's who Sid Edwards is. And what I'm saying, why I'm saying that is, yes, I'm Republican. I am pro-life, okay? But I don't, as far as identifying myself as that, okay, the cookie cutter person, I'm just Sid. I'm just Coach. It's who I am. And I think that's been the biggest learning curve for me, is that everything's either so far left or so far right. It's either so black or so white. But through my eyes, I don't see that. I laugh. I have two coaches. Okay, two white assistant football coaches on my staff, and they sit on one end of the. I just left them. That's where I came from. One is a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I'm talking dyed-in-the-wool, as left could be. The other, quite the opposite, MAGA, all the way to the right, and a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek and a lot of it's, it's good, healthy debate. It's fun. I've actually learned something from them two birds, okay? It's just them going back and forth on the issues. And I'm so much more astute now, and I've learned, so much more. But to answer your question, like the parish versus the, the state, I'm just Coach Sid. I'm not, in other words, I am, anyone who knows me, it doesn't make me great, Pastor, it don't. But anyone who knows me and knows my heart and my soul, they're going to push that button for me because I'm real. I'm not, I don't have an agenda left or right, I'm just for the people. And I think, but that's been the hardest thing for me is how polarizing this national election was. It's disturbing.
Do you think that you're a little naive about this when you say I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm just Sid, and I appreciate that,
Right.
And you come across that way, but there is a lot of polarization in this parish.
Oh, I know.
There is hardly an issue that you can raise where polarization does not come in. The dichotomy between North Baton Rouge and South Baton Rouge with the way that economic development takes place, the St. George issue, and the way in which St. George came about, and the determination of those who live in St. George to have a governmental system that is starkly different from the one that we have had in the parish. And they want the schools on top of that. In fact, never seen a place where you form a city in order to get a school system. Right. But that's what's taking place. And so I'm asking you honestly, and I'm being as honest as I know how to be. Yeah. Don't you think that what you're saying comes across as a little naive with regard to the realities of the racial polarization that exists within this community?
Sure, it absolutely can come across that way, and perhaps there is some naivety in there. It's just my gut. It's just my soul that. I understand. I understand the plight now. Sometimes you have to live it, right, to really know it, okay? But I understand some of the fears, and some of the concerns, for sure. Like if you take the St. George deal, my view on that, okay? And I didn't follow it the whole 12 years, so I don't want to make like I did, but at the end of the day, those people there voted, there was a vote, blah, blah, blah. But then I always wonder, like anything you can question, there has to be more than one motivation. What are all the motivations? I can't speak on that, okay? I know, I lived in Central for 10 years. I became the head, I'm not from there, I became the head football coach there. So I came in right when that school system was created. Well, no, the city first, then the school system. And I know it's been tremendously, successful. I mean, they've been able to, once they became their own city, particular school system, they've been able to do, a lot of things. But it's not like EBR, right? I'm talking about EBR school system. There's only one high school over there. If you only got one of anything.
Yeah, I've never thought it was a fair comparison.
Right.
For them to say that Zachary is a superior school system to EBR, and what are there, 4 schools in the entire Zachary system?
Maybe 5.
And 4 or 5 in the central system. Right. And nobody ever talks about Baker because Baker was the first one to break away. Yeah. And it has not been as successful as the others. Right. And so we tend to forget that Baker broke away from the East Baton Rouge Parish school system as well. But when it comes to St. George, my concern, and in that you're vying to become mayor-president of East Baton Rouge Parish, I would think that it would be your concern as well. This new city is taking, or potentially taking, millions of dollars out of the East Baton Rouge Parish budget that has to be made up some way. And they have yet to produce a budget, a formula that suggests that the city is viable. They have voted to have a city, but they have not presented a plan by which they can fund a city. And so let me just ask you, should you become mayor-president, what would be your approach, or how would your approach be different from the one that Mayor Sharon Weston Broome has taken with regard to St. George?
I don't know how different. I know this. When you're president of the parish and you have Baker, Zachary Central, and now St. George, the key to me, the big thing to me is fairness. You know, I think you have to be fair. I mean, there's no equal in that, okay, based on the needs of every, of every area. But I think being fair, I mean, you can't, I followed the issue, Mayor Broome has with St. George and them going back and forth. I've watched it. But yeah, to me, it's just, and I don't have the numbers. I don't know exactly what they are, but you got to sit down and it's just got to be fair. I mean, you can't bury, Baton Rouge proper for one other area, for Baker, Central, Zachary, or St. George, right? So, and you got to remember, when we say fair, fair is in the eye of the beholder as well, right?
Sure.
What does St. George, Baker, Zachary, Central, and Baton Rouge deem fair to them? But I've had to do that, on a much smaller scale, granted, with budgets and other type things of who's getting what and how it's coming to be, So I've been kind of following it, and to me, it's mesmerizing, and I'm anxious to see. They go to the polls December 7th on the whatever that 2% stuff is.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be very important for that area of our parish.
Central, you said that you worked in the Central school system. When Central became an independent school district, the schools were essentially given to them. Same thing with Zachary, same thing with Baker. And now St. George seems to believe that that's the precedent that has been set, and that these schools, the Woodlawns, high school, middle, elementary, the Southeast, should just be given to them without any expectation of payment to the parish. And so I'm going to ask you again, based upon your understanding, your review of these events, do you think, to use your word, that it's fair for the residents of St. George to expect schools that were built, facilities that were built by the entire parish, to simply be given over to them with no remuneration at all?
I don't know. I'd love to go talk to my Central people about how it went over there when they were turned over. I know over there it was Tanglewood, Bellingraph, Central Middle, and Central High. And of course, Central Middle was about to fall down. Right when that took over, East Baton Rouge Parish school system was on the cusp of building a new Central Middle. Right before that was going to happen. And Pastor, what I'm not sure on is, like, from a tax-based situation, like, okay, the people that are in that area, have they paid their taxes, and is that why they would feel, hey, it's just turned over? So I don't have a clear-cut answer on that. I would have to do some research and find out what happened in the other areas. Do you know? I'm asking,
I know that when they broke away, the schools were essentially given to them. Now, I'm old, but I ain't that old to remember the specifics of each situation. But it seems to me that what St. George is insisting upon, demanding, is something akin to, well, these schools are already out here in this geographic location. You just might as well hand them over to us, and we'll operate it as an independent school district.
Right.
Not taking into account all of the costs associated with the building, the maintenance, the upkeep of the facilities and the grounds, the staffs that have been in these facilities, the legacy costs, as they are called, and the infrastructure costs associated not just with the school systems, but with the streets and the sewerage and the fire. I know they have a volunteer fire department and emergency services and a police department. I don't understand how you can have a chief of police, but you don't have a police department. And you're expecting the sheriff's office to serve as your primary law enforcement vehicle, which is not legal. I've said that to everybody who's walked in here. It is not legal to expect the parish sheriff's office to be the primary law enforcement office for any of these communities. Central has their own police force. St. George should have one as well, and they should show how they're going to fund such a police force. I think that there are a lot of unanswered questions with regard to St. George. It is offensive to me that they stand up and say, okay, well, we voted, we're going to break away. Now, give us all the money that we want so that we can form a city, without showing me, as a resident of East Baton Rouge Parish and of Baton Rouge proper, how you going to pay for this?
Right. Yeah, I think here again, me not having a bird's eye view of all that stuff. What I know is they voted, they fought, they got it. And I wish I could lay out a plan for you of here's what I would do. But you said it. I think there's still a lot of questions, a lot of things. I know in Central, in the beginning, they didn't have their own police force, and the sheriff still patrol.
Yes, and Sheriff Gautreaux is on record as saying he was complying with a gentleman's request, a gentleman's agreement that his predecessor had put in place. I believe that was Sheriff Litchfield who put that into place. But he knows, the sheriff knows, that there is no legal standing for the sheriff's office to serve as the Central Police Force.
Right. Yeah, in Central, it started out with one guy in a slingshot, in a car, but then they've built their force up. I don't know where they're at numbers-wise, but Roger Corcoran is the chief out there, and gosh, I hate to say something I say wrong. I know they deal with a lot of traffic violations, traffic tickets, and certainly they respond to heinous crimes or anything else being committed. But yeah, that's stuff that I need to look at and see what's up and learn as they go. But it's a different feel with St. George in that it's been such a long deal for them. And maybe Central was longer. It just didn't seem. It don't seem as much. I'm old too, and I'm older, and I don't remember every step of the way of that, or was involved with it.
Yes, sir. Let's turn the page. Another outcome of Tuesday's election was that the proposed changes to the East Baton Rouge Parish Plan of Government failed, and failed rather spectacularly. The one issue in that whole plan that concerned me was this idea of a city manager that would be approved by the Metro Council. It failed. I'm very happy that it failed. I don't know your feelings about that, so let me start by asking: do you have an opinion about a city manager for East Baton Rouge Parish? And second, what's your belief about the structure in which they were talking about having a city manager, which was the mayor could appoint, but that the Metro Council could veto? And I raised the question, even though it failed. I raised the question because it failed once before, and they brought it back. So my concern is that it might be brought back again. So let me ask you what your feeling is about a city manager.
I was against it. I just think when the parish elects, a mayor-president, that's their job. And then already built in, our current Mayor Broom, as her chief of staff, she has what I'll call a cabinet, of her people. So I wasn't for it. In terms of the mayor, I absolutely agree with if you were to have one, the mayor appointing that person, but a little concern about that the council has to approve it. And my worry is if you get someone in that position, let's just say the mayor says, look, I want so-and-so, to be it, but the council says no. Council says no. Okay, we're good with that one. And a contract position, this person could sit in that seat for a very long time, potentially controlled by special interest or other things. So I didn't like the structure of it. And then I think it was just so worded. I mean, that was a busy button to push, that day. But at the end of the day, no, I voted no. I'm not for that.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
The one issue that I have taken issue with our mayor-president about is with regard to this new facility that's going to be built out on LSU's campus and the 30-year non-compete clause that the developers of that facility insisted upon, which limits what can be done with the Raising Cane Center and with other city-owned, parish-owned venues, Memorial Stadium, Goldsby Field, things of that sort. I did not and do not understand or agree with the idea that you need a non-compete clause in order for this state-of-the-art facility, which they say it's going to be, in order to draw the crowds that they want. I have a problem with the fact that the costs have been estimated at $500 million for what is essentially a 2,600 net improvement in seats over the PMAC, P. Maravich Assembly Center. And the idea that you're going to spend that exorbitant amount of money to net 2,600 seats, but you're also going to require that parish facilities have a non-compete clause and limit the number of people that they can have at their venues for their activities. It just doesn't seem very free enterprise-y to me. I mean, we love to talk about free enterprise until there's actual free enterprise, and then we seem to have a problem with that. So what's your opinion about that, and should you become mayor-president, would you continue with the non-compete clause, or would you ask to revisit that?
Let me ask you this. When you say a non-compete clause,
yes.
Okay, are you telling me that, take the River Center,
yes.
Okay,
they now call it the Raising Cane Center, but yes,
right.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah,
they said that you had to limit the number of people that you could have at that facility, so that you're driving these events to this new center that they are going to build. So, the Raising Cane Center seats 12,000 people. I'm not sure exactly how many seats, but they would be limited to 2,500 capacity under this non-compete clause once this new facility goes into place. That just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, certainly I'm going to speak on it best I can because I'm not astute all the way in this situation. But what concerns me as well is limiting the, and I still call it the Centroplex, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
But I'll use it in terms of, from what I'm seeing right here on the spot, is there was Bon Marché Mall, and then they built Cartana Mall, and then they built the Mall of Louisiana.
Yes.
Two of them are gone.
Yes.
So that
But they went away by virtue of free enterprise.
Right.
People chose to go to court. I remember Bon Marché.
Right.
I'm from North Baton Rouge. I remember
Right.
Delmont Village and Bon
Yeah.
Marché. And
Right.
there were some things you could get at Delmont, but if you wanted certain other things, you had to go to Bon Marché.
Yeah.
And then when Cortana was built, Bon Marché slowly eroded and went away.
Right.
And when Mall of Louisiana was built, Cortana slowly eroded and went away. But nobody said that you can't shop at these places.
Right.
Or that you can't put these stores in these places. There was no mandate that said you were limited in the number of people who could be there. This is a different
Right.
situation.
Right.
Because they're saying, we're going to invest $500 million in this facility over here. The number started at 350. It's now up to 500. We're going to invest in this facility. We're going to build this 15,000 seat place because the PMAC seats 13,000 people. So you're netting 2,600 seats for this state-of-the-art facility. But by the way, the 40-year-old Centroplex can no longer be used as a venue to compete with this state-of-the-art facility. Just doesn't seem right to me.
I see. I feel you. You know, I just here again. I'm not a student enough to deep in it to see, but in terms of what you're telling me, I see it. I see what you're saying, and that was kind of the analogy I used. If, although the malls and all that was free enterprise, you know, you got me thinking on it as well. You know, I don't know the ins and outs and the nuts and bolts of where it's headed to give a intelligent, a solid opinion.
There's been a push by certain entities, most notably the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, for rail traffic between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Mr. John Spain has been working very, very hard at that for the last 8-10 years. It seems like it's getting closer, but it has not happened yet. Do you feel like rail between Baton Rouge and New Orleans is something that a Sid Edwards administration would be supportive of?
I would be supportive of that. I mean, it's so much convenience, helping people with transportation issues, not to mention that you know, Pontchartrain and the traffic and all that. Yes, I think that would be something that would be very good for both cities.
Since we're talking about traffic, which is always a problem here, infrastructure in East Baton Rouge Parish is the brunt of a whole lot of jokes.
Right.
I think one of the problems that exists, one of the frustrations that exists with the John Q. Public is that people aren't always aware of what's a city road versus a state road versus a federal highway.
Right.
For example, Florida Boulevard is not a city road.
Right.
It's I believe it's federal. Scenic Highway is federal. So maintenance and upkeep, I believe that city government gets unfairly criticized about some roads because they are not under the purview of the city parish. They belong to someone else. How would you handle infrastructure issues in Baton Rouge? Namely, educating people as to what's my responsibility as mayor-president versus the state's problem, Governor Landry's problem, or a federal problem.
Isn't it something like, you know, Mayor Broom's been in office 8 years, and she's caught some grief over these roads, right? And it's true, because even Sid Edwards, like, that was at one debate, and they were asking me about infrastructure and issues in Baton Rouge, and I started talking about the, you know, widening Airline Highway, and and even the moderates said, no, Sid, we're talking about like, you know, surface streets and moving and whatever. I think the public needs to be educated on it, you know, whereas, okay, I mean, I don't know how many people, you know, the Advocate, the news, hey, it's too easy to do. There's too much media now that it can't be pushed out. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening. These venues right here are mostly controlled by the parish, okay, in the parish's hands, state, federal. for people to know. You just said Florida Boulevard, Federal Highway. When you look at it, I think was one time named Florida Republic, named Florida Boulevard because it almost went to Florida.
Right.
But yes, I think that educational piece for sure. Now, in terms of in the city, do you know there's 8 million different ideas and proposals of how we can get the city moving, and it's just finding the best solution. I think they did the synchronization of the lights, and I think that helped, but I think they're out of sync right now. You know what I'm saying? Like everything changes. I notice, like, I'll go some places, I'll go and I'll hit, you hit every red light, right? Like, gosh, one is much longer than the other. And I'm sure that science is there, but I think just from that simple standpoint is resynchronization and looking about what's working and where's the backlogs and all that.
Earlier today, and I'm asking you this, it's really not in the purview of the Mayor-President's office, but you work in the school system. Earlier today, Middle District Federal Judge John DeGravelle rendered a ruling with regard to Governor Landry's proposal to put placards of the Ten Commandments in every classroom of public schools all the way up to public colleges and universities. He said that it's unconstitutional, and he stayed, I think that's the correct way of saying it, he stayed the legislature's order to do this. I'll be honest with you. I'm glad he did it. I don't think that that was the appropriate thing to do. But as someone who works in the school system, I would appreciate your opinion, if you're willing to share it, with regard to that whole issue.
We need more God in school. I have no problem with the Ten Commandments being posted. I know, I also believe in people's, own personal religious beliefs. I did this when I took the football job at Central. I got called out because we would pray, as a football team. Somebody came and I said, "Well, no, we're going to pray." Well, even threatened to the point that you won't have a job. Well, that's fine. But my thing, we're living in a very diverse, vast world, and I don't think, like if somebody wanted to put, the Koran up or put something, up like that, I'm usually not into government forcing something on someone. But if just Sid Edwards personally, the Ten Commandments, being posted in my classroom, I'm okay with that, But at the same time, the way I coach and how I teach and all that, we're a God-driven program wherever I've been, and the Lord is going to be present. And, I remember I'm Catholic, and I remember, one of my first jobs, the Hail Mary, we were going to pray. Then it hit me, well, not everybody knows that, right? Not everybody believes that, right? So I'm sensitive to that side. But just to answer your question, I did not know what you're telling me. I didn't know that a ruling came out unconstitutional or anything like that. I hadn't heard.
It's going to be reversed because it's going to go to the middle, to the Fifth Circuit, and the Fifth Circuit is extremely conservative, and so I expect it'll
bounce, right?
To be reversed, and then it'll head up to the Supreme Court. But I was very appreciative of Justice DeGravelle's decision. I too am very religious. I'm a Christian. I'm a Baptist, born and raised. But I also believe in religious pluralism, because this country was not founded as a Christian nation. This country was founded as a nation based on religious freedom. And I don't think that it does anything positive in the way of upholding religious freedom to place one religion ahead of others.
Right.
If we want to teach religion, then let's teach it in our churches, and let's teach it in our homes, and do it that way. But I don't believe that there needs to be a mandate from government for this. And I appreciate the fact that you have a different opinion, and
Right.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on that whole thing.
Yes,
One
sir.
last question, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to say a final word. You're going into a debate on Tuesday, I believe, with Mayor-President Broome. Can you share with this audience, prior to that debate, what your top 3 items are as far as improvement in East Baton Rouge Parish should you become Mayor-President?
Yes, crime is number one. Public safety. I think that's let's call it public safety.
Okay.
The homeless population tied into mental illness in our community without proper treatment, for these people, and then blight. Blight being, I feel Baton Rouge is dirty. I don't think it's a clean town, and those are my numbers 1, 2, and 3 on my little platform.
You said that you're a man of faith. I believe that, and you come across as a very humble and genuine person. Did you pray before you decided to run for Mayor-President? And how did the Lord speak to you with regard to your decision?
Yes, sir. I prayed a lot. And sometimes old Coach Sid, I always say, if God writes it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And that's faith. Okay, I've got faith. I got faith. But sometimes I get in my own doggone way and try to make a decision that's my decision. I hear the Lord may be talking, but sometimes Sid ain't listening completely, right? And it's God's work that I'm in it. Not regardless of, I've never said it's God's work that I'm going to become Mayor-President. It's God's work that I'm in it. And all the way to driving to qualifying. Truthfully, I had been thinking about this for a while. But I can tell you, Pastor, on the way to qualifying, I was still praying. And it just so happened in that rainstorm on July 19th, and it was thundering and booming, and I didn't have an umbrella, and I was in a suit. And I said to myself, God, if just let me know if this ain't it. And the lightning came, and I looked, and right in front of City Hall was a parking spot. And that never happens.
No, it doesn't.
Not over there.
No, it doesn't.
And I pulled in that parking spot, and I went on in and did it. So yes, sir, I try to pray, and talk to our Lord, on any big decisions. Small decisions, I just wing it on my own.
Please look into that camera. That's your camera, and tell the voters why they should vote for Sid Edwards.
There's 2 of us left in the race, and I have tremendous respect for our Mayor-President, Sharon Western Broome, and she has done some beautiful things. She sits in the hardest seat, even when there were 8 of us in the deal. The toughest seat to be in is the one she's in, because she has a record, and it's like anything else, the starting quarterback, right? So I wanted that to be said. For me, I would wish that the folks listening would look into me and ask people who know me. Sometimes change is good. I was removed as a football coach at Central High School for somebody new, a fresh perspective, something new. And I feel that I'm the candidate for change, but I think a lot of with the people watching need to know, well, what's he changing? And a lot of that's just getting with me, following our campaign. But at the end of the day, I've said it the whole time. Maybe it is naive, Pastor. I don't know. I'm just Coach Sid. It matters not if you're black or white or Republican or Democrat or Baptist or Catholic. Is there enough people in the parish that believe that this ball coach can come in here and do this job and do it effectively and do a great job? So that's it. I ask people to look into me. I know I can. And I want to say this too. I want to be Mayor-President, but I don't have to be. And what I mean by that, God is going to put me in the seat on the bus that he wants me in, and I'll keep ministering and doing what I got to do whether I am or not. I want to be it bad because I know I can make a difference. I just don't have to be. Thank y'all for having me.
Coach Sid Edwards, thank you for coming by and sharing with us on the Thrive podcast. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again next time.